welcome back. Thank you for watching another Providing Resources for Emergency Preparedness Basic Baking Monday video. And today I'm going to show you how to bake a rich and hearty homemade beef stew. Now, I like to call this the working man's beef stew because after a hard day work in the wintertime, you come home, you put on this beef stew and you serve it with a pot of garlic mashed potatoes. This beef stew right here will do the trick to warm his belly and make him feel good after a hard day's work. Started by showing you the ingredients that we're going to use to put this wonderful, delicious beef stew together. Since we have so many ingredients to make this delicious beef stew, let's get started by walking you through all of the ingredients, and I'll show you each ingredient one by one. Black peppercorns, kosher salt, powdered garlic, some Hungarian paprika, some dried thyme, some dried rosemary, some dry bay leaves, onion powder, cayenne pepper, and parsley, some organic carrots, some mushrooms, a stalk of organic celery, a yellow onion, a green bell pepper, green beans, of organic garlic, some unbleached all-purpose flour, of organic beef broth, organic diced tomatoes, organic tomato sauce, and we're going to use half of this can of this organic tomato paste, 2 leeks, and a little extra virgin olive oil. And last but not least, you're going to need some organic beef stew meat. So let's show you what we're going to be working with for hardware. As you can see, I have my leeks in a bowl with a strainer because leeks store a lot of sand on the inside and dirt. We're going to give these a wash and a rinse and a zhuzh in this strainer and in this bowl. Right here, I have my Dutch oven on a tray, just in case I get any bubble over, it hits my tray and not my stove. You're going to need an extra bowl for when you cut up your vegetables, a place to put them. You're definitely going to need a cutting board, a peeler, and a good chef's knife. Now, I have taken the liberty to already wash each one of my vegetables. My celery, my carrots, my leeks, and my green bell pepper have already been pre-washed and rinsed very well. And I've also taken time to cut up my meat, remove all the silver skin, give it a good wash, and prep my meat prior to starting my work. So now that my food is prepped, let's get these vegetables cut up and ready to go in our pot. We're going to start off with our celery. So what I want to do is I want to cut off the ends with a good chef knife. Now get rid of that part. I can toss that later. And I just want the ribs of the celery. So depending on your stock, I'm going to say, yep, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 pieces of celery. And you can add more or less to taste. Alrighty? So, I'm going to divide this in half and cut this up and get it into my bowl and ready to go. And you want big chunks because this is going to cook a while and you don't want it to cook now. Alrighty? I'm going to get my other 4 pieces of celery ready. Big chunks again. That looks about right. And then I got my sliced baby bell mushrooms here. Those are ready to go. And I can just place those right in my bowl. Okay, excellent. Next, for my carrots, I'm going to give those a peel and a dice. Alrighty, so you want to get your carrots filled up, and it's always a good idea to have a good sharp peeler in your prepper kitchen tool. Alrighty, that's my last carrot. Alrighty, so I got my carrots here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the ends. Of each carrot. Okay. And then I'm going to, for this big boy here, I'm actually going to slice him in half. Perfect. And then I'm just going to cut these up into big chunks. And I'm going to add those to my bowl as well. Next, I'm going to slice up my green bell pepper. I'm going to take off the top end, slice it down the middle, and take out the inside. Then I'm going to chop my green bell pepper into smaller pieces. I'm going to place those smaller pieces in my bowl as well. Next, we're going to cut up our onion. And you can rough chop these. You don't want to make them too small because they're going to cook a while in the pot. Okay? We can add those right into our bowl as well. Next, we're going to prep our leeks. Now, the thing that you need to know about leeks is you want to use the part below the stem. You want to toss all of this, and you definitely want to get rid of the root. So we're just going to use the part that's in here with the leeks. Alright, so I'm taking off that part. I'm getting rid of the root. Now this is what we have left from our leeks. What you want to do next is you want to cut your leeks in half and place them on your board, and you want to half your other side as well. Alright, and you want to lay them flat. And you want to take off the outer leaves and discard those. With the inner leaves, you want to cut them up in big chunks and place them in your bowl with the strainer. So now that I got my leeks in a bowl with the strainer, you want to bring them over to your sink and give them a very good rinse and a wash. And you want to get in between each individual leek. Now the leeks are in the onion family. And if you don't have leeks, you can still make this recipe. But what I want you to do is then use 2 onions. But since I'm using 1 onion and 2 leeks, that covers it. But the equivalent is 2 onions instead of 1 onion and 2 leeks. So I'm going to give those a good rinsing, a good thorough rinsing. Okay. Then I'm going to fill my bowl with water and give them a zhuzh. Technical term there, zhuzh. Okay. Alrighty. So I'm going to set that to the side and let those leeks soak. And while those leeks are soaking, I can get my meat ready. And what should happen is while this is soaking, the dirt from the leeks should fall to the bottom of the bowl. So when I lift it out, the dirt is in the bowl and I can give these one last rinse and then put them in my vegetable bowl. So now that our leeks have had a chance to soak and the dirt has dropped to the bottom, what I'm going to do is bring my bowl back to the sink. I'm going to pour off that water and I'm going to give my leeks a final rinse. And you want to make sure that you do not skip this step, because if you do, you'll be adding dirt to your pot, and you don't want that. That's not tasty protein. Alrighty. So we're done with that here. And I'll give that a final zhuzh to get as much water out as I can. And then we're going to bring these leeks and add them to our vegetable bowl. So we're going to add these leeks to our vegetable bowl. Alrighty. Pile that right on up on top of that, because this is all going into our pot after we get our meat browned up. And our last vegetable is these green beans, and we're going to leave them in the bowl that they're in. We're just going to set those to the side. The key to this good beef stew, or what makes it so flavorful, is having a good number of spices and herbs. The spices and herbs is all what makes the beef stew have that delicious flavor. And if you have not seen my video on food storage herbs and spices, I'm going to place a link below for you to review that. So you definitely want to make sure you have a good selection of herbs and spices in your food storage preps. So let's get showing you how I add these spices to my beef stew. So next we're going to season up our meat and season up our flour. And when I make my beef stew, I like to layer the flavor in every part of my cooking. So I'm going to start out by seasoning my meat, and what I put in my meat, I'm also going to add to my flour. Adding a half a cup of flour to this bowl right here. I've already added a fourth, and I'm going to add another fourth to make that a half. My beef, alright? So I'm going to start off with a half a teaspoon of Hungarian paprika. I'm going to add that to my flour, and I'm going to add a half a teaspoon to my beef. A half a teaspoon of thyme to my flour, and a half a teaspoon of thyme to my beef. I'm going to add a full teaspoon of peppercorns, black peppercorns, freshly ground, to my beef. And I'm going to add a half a teaspoon of peppercorn to my flour. I'm going to add a half a teaspoon of rosemary to my beef and none to my flour. I'm going to add a full teaspoon of kosher salt to my beef and a half a teaspoon of salt to my flour. That's about 1/4 teaspoon of salt to my flour. I'm going to add a half teaspoon of garlic powder to my beef. And I'm going to add 1/4 to my flour. I'm going to add 1/4 teaspoon of onion powder to my beef and none to my flour. And then last but not least, I'm going to add 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper to my beef and none to my flour. Now we have our seasoned beef and we have our seasoned flour. So what I want to do is I want to stir these ingredients throughout my flour to make sure that's mixed well. Alright? Then I want to grab a pair of tongs. These tongs, and I want to toss these spices on my beef. And you want to make sure that each piece of beef is thoroughly coated in those spices. Alright. So now that my beef is thoroughly coated in spices, I'm going to get my pot going. And what I want to do next is I want to turn my Dutch oven. I want to turn my Dutch oven on medium. Into my Dutch oven, I want to add about 1/4 cup of olive oil. That's about 1/4 cup. And I want to let that get heated thoroughly. While my olive oil is heating up, I want to then toss my beef in this flour. So I'm going to sprinkle this flour over my beef. I'm going to toss my beef in the flour to make sure it's coated, a thin flour coating. And I'm going to use my tongs to do that as well to keep my hands clean. So my olive oil is in my Dutch oven. It's nice and warm, and I'm going to start adding my beef to it, so it can start browning up. And you don't want to overcrowd your pot. You want to give enough room for your meat to brown, so you might have to do this in 2 batches. So as your beef starts to brown, you want to definitely give it a turn. So that it's brown on all sides. Your meat browns up on all sides. You don't want to cook it all the way through. You just want to make sure it's brown, and then you want to remove it to another pan that I have sitting here on the stove for this purpose. So after you've taken your last one out from that first batch and you set that in your dish to the side, you want to add your second round of beef to your pot. And I might have to do this in thirds. And be careful, because this olive oil will pop. But this Dutch oven is wonderful for browning your meat and getting your vegetables sauteed. Okay. And you can add a little bit more olive oil if you need to, but it looks like I'm good right now. Alright, so we're on our last batch, and I'm going to take the last of this meat out of the pot. And during the process of browning the meat, I kept adding olive oil, so I add about, in total, I had a total of 4 pots of browning, and I had a total of about 1/2 cup of olive oil. Alrighty, now you see the stuff at the bottom of the pot? That's goodness, and you want to keep that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit more olive oil, and then I'm going to add my vegetables that I chopped up earlier to that same pot. And I'm going to get my carrots and my celery, my mushrooms and my onions, sauteing in that. You want to toss your vegetables in that oil. And all those brown bits at the bottom are going to flavor your vegetables. But we're going to add additional seasoning to this pot as well. Alrighty, here. So in this pot, we have our vegetables, and I'm just going to give them a stir. And as they cook down, They'll make room for our meat and our tomato sauce and other flavorings we're going to add. So now will be a good time to add some additional seasoning. And we're going to do that now. Now earlier I talked about layering your flavors. So we seasoned our meat, we seasoned our flour, and now we're going to season our vegetables and our tomato sauce that we're going to add. So we're going to go back with some of the same seasonings and add that extra layer of flavor to our vegetables. So we're going to add a half a teaspoon of rosemary, because a little rosemary goes a long way. We're going to add that right on to our vegetables. We're going to add a full teaspoon of kosher salt. Okay. We're going to add a full teaspoon of black pepper, and I have ground these up in my coffee pot, in my coffee grinder. Alright, a full teaspoon of black pepper, a full teaspoon of thyme, alrighty, and 2 teaspoons of parsley. Okay, perfect. And I'm going to grab my oven mitt, and then we're going to give that a stir because these Dutch ovens get hot. So we're going to stir that flavor in to our vegetables in our pot. And as you can see, the vegetables have cleaned up the bottom of that pot. All that flan or that goodness that was sticking to the bottom of the pot has now come up and is getting incorporated into our delicious stewed vegetables. Okay, so we're just going to let that cook some more. Alright, so now that that has cooked down some, we still have one more flavor booster to add to our pot. And that is going to be some garlic. So I keep my garlic in the freezer. So I'm going to pull it out my plastic bag now and give it a chop and add it to my pot. This is a power flavor packed beef stew. I forgot what I was cooking there for a minute. That is funny. I think I'm going to leave that in the video. I'm standing right next to it and I had to say, okay. It's been a long day. So this is a power flavor packed beef stew. And adding these extra garlics will give it just so much more flavor. So we're going to chop up this garlic and we're going to get that in our pot. Oh, that smells so good. When that garlic hit the pot, it just starts smelling good right away. And we're going to stir that garlic in. I wish we had smell-o-vision, so you could smell all these delicious vegetables and seasonings in this pot. And so we're going to let that cook down just for a little bit longer. I only added one of the beef broth containers. So I just want to come back and say that I only added one of the beef broth containers, and you'll see that in here now. Alrighty, and I've added one of the organic beef broth. Next, I'm going to get my diced tomatoes added, and I took out 3 cans. Let's see if I add all 3. So I'm adding 3 cans of organic diced tomatoes. And I'm going to stir that in my pot. And then I'm going to add 1 can of the organic tomato sauce. Alrighty? And I'm going to stir that into my pot. Now, I'm going to add back my meat. Now, this is a good time to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Ready. So I got my meat added to my pot, and you said, oh, Lillian, that pot is full. You can't get nothing else in there. I still got one more flavor to put in. I'm going to put in 2 bay leaves. It doesn't have enough flavor yet. I like it to be flavorful. That's what makes my beef stew so good. This is a good old-fashioned hungry man's beef stew. Okay, that's enough in that pot just for right now. Alrighty, so we're going to put our lid on it, and we're going to slide it in the oven. Now this is heavy. This pot alone is heavy. This is a La Creuset pot. This pot is heavy all by itself. When you add meat and water and liquids to these pots, they get really heavy. So you want to make sure that you got the strength to do it, or have your husband do it, or somebody else do it. This pot is going to be heavy. Full disclosure. Alright. So I've already adjusted my rack all the way down to make up for the headroom that my pot is going to take up. And I always place my pot on a tray. So if I have any bubble over, oh my God, that's heavy. It'll fall on my tray and not in my oven. Woo! I barely made it in there with that one. Alrighty. So now we're going to let that cook for about an hour. We're going to come back, add our green beans, add our tomato paste to thicken up our sauce, and then after an hour we're going to let it cook for another hour or so and enjoy our beef stew with our buttermilk biscuits with chives that are already made. Hi, we're back. It's been a couple of hours, and I wanted to tell you guys what happened while I wasn't taping. I had originally put the beef stew in this pot, but as you can see, this pot is empty and now clean. During the cooking process, I had some spillover, enough where I wanted to clean my tray and get a new pot because I didn't want that to burn and make my oven smoke. So that proves 2 points. 1, I put too much in here, and 2, you definitely need a tray to catch any spillage you may have. Otherwise, you're going to have to stop in the middle of your cooking and clean your oven. But I didn't want to do that, so thank God I had the tray. So I was able to transfer it to this different La Creuset pot that I own. And as you can see, this red one is substantially bigger than the orange one, and it allowed me a lot more room. Okay, so now that we've gotten that out the way, now I want to take the lid off and show you guys what's going on inside this pot. Okay, that's what it looks like when I took the lid off, and I still need to add 2 more things. Alrighty, so that's what it looked like. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my green beans. These are organic green beans, and I'm just going to add those and stir those in. And another thing, this pot is so heavy, I had to struggle to get it out of the oven. Okay, so just stir those green beans in. And the last and final ingredient to this hearty beef stew is right here. I have some organic tomato paste, and I'm going to add a few tablespoons of this organic tomato paste to thicken up the pot liquor you see here. And that will make a nice pot liquor gravy that we're going to put our beef stew over our garlic chive mashed potatoes, and that's going to make it yummy and delicious. So I'm going to add maybe three teaspoons of this tomato paste. I'm going to put this back in for probably another half an hour, and then it's going to be done. It's going to be nice and thick with the help of that tomato paste, and then we're going to wrap this one up. Alright, you can see the mushrooms, the celery. Alright, so I'm going to put my lid back on. Get my mussels. Alright. Woo! That's back in the oven. So we're going to let that cook for a half an hour, and then we're going to come back and show you the final product. So our cooking time is up, and we can now show you the final product. Alrighty. Definitely need oven mitts because this lid is hot. Alrighty. That is nice and bubbly. So there you have it, our final product of our old-fashioned beef stew made from scratch and with love. So thank you for watching another Providing Resources for Emergency Preparedness YouTube Basic Baking Monday video. If you like what you see, please press the like button. If you want to continue to watch more of our videos, please subscribe to